1590. A man named John White returns to the coast of North Carolina after 3 long years at sea. He expects to see his daughter, his granddaughter, the first English child born in the New World, and 115 settlers. Instead, he finds a ghost town. Houses are carefully dismantled. There is no blood, no signs of a massacre, and not a single bone. The only clue is a word carved into a tree: Croatoan. For 4 centuries, we called it the Lost Colony. We imagined alien abductions, mystical curses, and horrific massacres. But history was hiding the truth in plain sight. In 2026, thanks to hidden maps, the first Colony Foundation's excavations at Site X, and revolutionary DNA sequencing, we finally have the answer. They didn't vanish into the air. They walked into the woods and into the bloodlines of America. Welcome to Unresolved Truths. To understand the end, we must understand the beginning. In 1587, 115 English settlers arrived on Roanoke Island. They were not soldiers, they were families. But the timing was a disaster. They arrived in the middle of the worst drought in 800 years. Relations with local tribes were tense. When John White left for England to get supplies, he got caught in the war against the Spanish Armada. He couldn't return for 3 years. When he finally stepped back onto the island, the silence was deafening. White knew the settlers had a plan. If they were forced to leave, they would carve their destination into a tree. If they were in danger, they would add a cross. He found the word Croatoan, but there was no cross. This was a planned move, not a tragedy. But where did they go? For 400 years, historians stared at a map drawn by John White himself, called La Virginia Pars. It seemed normal. But in 2012, researchers at the British Museum noticed 2 small patches of paper pasted over parts of the map. Using modern imaging technology, they looked under those patches. What they found shocked the world. Beneath one patch was a tiny red and blue symbol of a 4-pointed star, the universal symbol for a fort. This fort was located 50 miles inland, at the mouth of the Chowan River. Why was it hidden? Some believe it was to keep the location secret from Spanish spies. But for us, it was the first real X marks the spot. This wasn't a ghost story anymore. It was a search and rescue mission. The first Colony Foundation began digging at this secret location, now known as Site X, and the ground began to speak. They found borderware, a specific type of English pottery used only in the late 16th century. They found a lead cloth seal, the kind used by London merchants in the 1580s. They even found a snap haunce, a piece of an early English firearm. These weren't items that could have been traded later. They were personal belongings of English settlers who were living with the Native Americans. The evidence was clear. A significant group of the Roanoke settlers had moved inland to this protected area, seeking food and safety with the tribes who had survived the drought for centuries. The final piece of the puzzle didn't come from the dirt. It came from the blood. For generations, families in the Hatteras and Lumbee tribes of North Carolina claimed they were descended from the lost settlers. They had gray eyes, fair skin, and family names like Sampson and Cooper, names that were on John White's original list. In 2026, advanced genetic testing of these descendants has revealed specific markers that trace directly back to 16th century England. They didn't die out. They assimilated. They married into the local tribes, shared their technology, and learned how to survive in a harsh new world. The lost colony was never lost. They were just waiting for us to stop looking for ghosts and start looking for people. Roanoke reminds us that history is not always written in books. Sometimes it's written in our DNA. 115 people made a choice to survive, even if it meant leaving their old lives behind forever. As we solve the mysteries of the past, we realize that the truth is often more beautiful than the myth. The mystery of the lost colony is officially closed. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the world's greatest enigmas. From Skinwalker Ranch to the heart of the ice in Antarctica, we have searched for the light. Subscribe to Unresolved Truths, because the truth is always out there, waiting to be found.